So I have found in the world of literature or the literary world of writers that there's a lot of people who start off writing books and then they kind of diverge into another path, and that is coaching. And there's that old saying that like those who cannot do teach. And I will say that there are some people out there who because writing and being an author and selling books and book marketing is difficult. It is not an easy path. It is nothing that anybody should just quit their job now and start doing. It is something you should start doing and work on and build yourself up that someday maybe you can. And I know several people, I have friends who have got to that point. It usually comes about 10 years. It's usually about the 10-year mark where people, I'll tell you right now, I have a friend named Stephen A. McKay. And when I first met him, he was very successful, but he was still reading meters in Scotland. And right around the 10-year mark, he quit his job and started going full time as an author. About 10-year mark. Not everybody makes it to that, and that's fine. Some people have jobs all their lives. I think there was is it Charles Ives, famous composer, who spent his entire career as an insurance man, but also wrote, and he's a famous American composer. So anyway, I'm getting off track here because this is my cold open. My cold open is not very succinct, is it? I probably should put more thought into it. What I'm trying to say is that when you put yourself out there as an author, you're going to start getting bombarded by, I would say, mostly, I don't know, there's a lot of scam artists, there's a lot of good meaning people, but there's a lot of people who find that just being the author side of it is not doing it enough for them. So they get into coaching, and you'll see these people come up to you on LinkedIn through social media. A lot of times you get these like long, like they friend you and then they start asking you questions about they say, I'm an author too. They start asking you questions, and it's a very long walk into whatever services. And it could be their editors, they want to edit your book and you pay them $3,000 to do so, or they want to handle your marketing or whatever. But I will say personally, for me, I'm very open with helping other people, and I feel like I have a lot of good things to say. And there are multiple people that I have helped, that I have, uh, went to their house, helped them get their book onto KDP, gave them advice about marketing. I'm very proud to say that I think there's about 3 or 4, maybe more people that I literally like sat down with them and we got their book published and have answered their questions. One guy actually paid me. I've never asked for money for it, but this was down in Florida. He lives near Tampa. My dad lives near Fort Myers, and I was down taking care of my dad, and he asked me if I would drive up to Tampa and spend a whole day with him, and we did. He paid me like $200, and that was great. But and there was just like everybody else, there was at some point I felt that tug of, hey, maybe I could get into this because there are a lot of people who dream about writing books and getting published and all that. And I have some experience in that, and maybe I could help other people and make some money doing it. But every time I go through that thought process, right, I come back with I arrive at the same conclusion. And that is this, okay? I'm on my own path. I've written 5 books. I've actually written 6. I've published 5. I've published 7 books actually, but 5 novels. I'm about to put out my 6th novel, and we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about the cancer. That's why I'm talking the way I am, because I'm losing my ability to talk and to eat. But I'll say this: I've been very happy with the results. I put out my first book in 2018, 18? 2019. My first book came out in 2019. And I started writing in 2018, put out my first book in 2019, put out a book every calendar year, I think, except for 2023, is because some of the books took me longer than a year to write and edit and publish. And my sales have gotten better and better, and my monthly royalties have gotten better and better and better. There's a certain amount of money that I can almost guarantee that I'm going to make on a monthly basis. But I'm still, as far as I'm concerned, a long way off of saying that I've completely made it, right? And so I don't feel like, maybe on the lower end of getting someone started, that yeah, I have the no, the I have the knowledge to help someone, and I'm usually willing to do it for free to help someone out. My one friend insisted on paying me because I did drive an hour or so up from Fort Myers to Tampa and sat down with him all day long, and really, he was one of those guys that, good writer, brilliant mind, older guy, doesn't know all the computer stuff like I do. So I was able to sit down and work with him, and hopefully, he's, and even to this day, he, I mean, forever, even before this happened, out of the blue, he'll email me a question or call me, and I'll spend an hour on the phone with him, whatever. So he paid me that one time. That was great. But I don't feel like I can turn around and show you, like, look at all this success, and I can, hire me, and I'm going to help you get that success. So here's the conundrum of that, right? Is that I don't feel like I have earned the right to try to professionally go out there and offer my services as an author coach, right? And to charge good money for it and to make a business out of it because I haven't done it enough for myself that I feel comfortable asking money from other people, right? Um, but the conundrum is that if I get to that point, I I'm not in the business to be an author, right? I'm in this to be an author, to write books. And writing books is a full time job. And guess what else is a full time job? Marketing books. And guess what else is a full time job? Basically, owning and operating your own self or your own micro publishing company is basically what Engdahl House is. So it's like having three full time jobs. I'm the creative director, the writer. I'm the CEO of the company, and I'm also the marketing director. And those are three hats that you have to wear, and you can do it. I typically for me, I like to write in the morning when my brain's fresh, and then in the afternoon is when I work on things like ads and things like that, or I find places. I work every day, but I do what you love and never work a day in your life. So that's the conundrum, is that I'm really never going to be a professional author coach because I don't feel like I'm qualified, and if I were qualified, I wouldn't be spending any time on it. So you see, and I'm not trying to bang on people, but I will say that I get a lot of come-ons, and I go and I look at their books, and they're not doing any better than I am. And so I'm not going to pay them to do what I can already do because it's not like their services have done them a lot. And I'm not going to point any fingers at anybody, but there's a lot of them out there. Um, and I feel like they all come from the same place. We all have the same pitch lines and things like that. So um, there's that. Now, I will say that there are some, because I will say that being a novelist and being a marketer are not the same skill set. It's like a Venn diagram, right? There's like, here's your ability to be an author, here's your ability to be a good marketer. And then somewhere in here is, if you're in the whole right here, the center, well, I feel like that's me. Like, I feel like I'm a good writer and I'm also a good marketer. But if you're over here in this, in the writer hole, but circle, but not overlapping with the marketer, well, you might want to hire someone or get some help, right? Or if you're a writer and a marketer, but you find that you're really not your books don't do great, but you know how to get that word out there. You're over here. I will give you a perfect example, and I will say it because it's a person who will say it himself. Brian Cohen. Brian Cohen. By the way, the reason why I'm late because I was going to do this at 3 o'clock is because I spent an hour and a half watching a free seminar that he does because he runs author ad school and pathfinders and all sorts of basically a staircase of levels of coaching up to like agency if you're making like over $6,000 a month. Right? That's Brian. Brian's got a YA fantasy series out. It's like superheroes, and he'll tell you this is not really doesn't do that well. Um, but what does do well for him is his book on marketing, and I bought one. I bought the one on running an email list. So I want to say that because just because you don't make it as an author doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have anything good to say about giving advice. There's Craig Duncan as well. I watched him on YouTube. He's got excellent advice. He's never published a book in his life, and I don't know what the reason is. I think he's brilliant. I know that he writes. I think he's just scared to do it and to face possible failure. I don't know, but I recommend him. So away from the people that come on to you, and I want to talk about on YouTube now, because YouTube is another way of doing this. You're going to start a YouTube channel, and I'm not at the point where I'm monetized. I have to have about 1,000 followers. I'm about halfway there, and you have to have like a certain number of watch hours before you can get monetized. But people who have a good following on YouTube make money at it, and some people make a living. People have like 100,000 followers on YouTube. They can make YouTube is their job, and I listen to a lot of those people. They usually are people that make commentary about storytelling and pop culture and things like that. So I get a lot of uh, recommendations. There's the people I follow, and then there's the recommendations I get. Right, and so I get a lot about YouTube knows that I'm a writer or that I'm interested in that topic. So, and there are some people out there that are excellent, and there are some people that I actually literally follow who are. There's a young lady, I can't remember her name, but she is a what do you call it, an editor, and she worked for I think Penguin Random House as a developmental editor, and she now runs a YouTube channel. And I mean, it's interesting to hear someone who worked for one of the big five on the inside talk about things and give advice about what works and what doesn't work. But sometimes I get ones that are recommended to me that I mean I read the title and it's just absolute bullshit. And you go and you look at them and you listen to the video, and I think part of it is clickbait because I'm like, wait a minute, that's bullshit right there. And then you listen to it and it's still bullshit. And then you go look and you see that they got a couple books on Amazon that are ranked up in the millions. That means no one's buying their books. So at some point they flipped over from trying to be a writer to trying to tell writers what to do and what not to do. There was one guy, it's not the guy I'm going to show you. And by the way, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, including the guy I'm going to show you, because I'm sure I've watched other videos of him, and he's got some good advice, but he's got some bad advice, and we're going to talk about that. There was another guy that I was going to do, and usually I try not to get into fights. I used to when I was, maybe 15 years ago, where I was a little bit more online. In fact, I would go looking for him because I like to argue. But but these two guys kind of what they were telling people compelled me to say something, and I said it in a cordial. I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but I'm going to let you know if I don't think you're right. And one guy had a video saying, if you don't like to read, it's okay. You can still be a good writer. And no, no. If you don't like to read and you want to be a writer, you have to really think about what you really want. Do you really want to be a writer, or is it you just like the image that you have of yourself being a writer? And if that's the case, I say go get yourself a guitar and start learning how to play, or go to your go join your local community theater or something like that. But writing is a very lonely, very it's a grind with a very little glory in it. And this guy had like this picture of like I mean it's a model, but he was using this picture of this young lady with like little girl like pigtails, and she's got a sucker, and she's got like a book, and she's rolling her eyes. She's got to read the book. If you don't love to read, you have no business writing. Uh, One of the most important things about writing, if you want to make it as a writer, is reading other people's work, reading your own what's the word I'm looking for? Not rivals, but uh, the people that are writing the same stuff that you're writing. And don't worry, you're you. You're not gonna somehow pick up shit that they're writing. You're still gonna write your own stuff, but you need to understand what your writers are looking for. If you truly want to make it in this, I mean, if you're just writing for your own self and you don't care if you make any money, fine. But if you want to make it as a writer and you want to write to an audience, I mean, you want to write what you want to write, right? Like I do, but I'm also writing to an audience, trying to write in a way and use the tropes and the kinds of things and the pacing that people want to read, right? Because if no one wants to read the book, you're not going to sell any books. And if you don't sell book one, you're not going to sell book two. So anyway, this guy had this video, and I called him out on it. I can't remember what I said, but I basically said this is awful advice, and he uh he came back with some kind of hippie bullshit like, well, there's room for everybody, and not really. There's no room for you if you're not a reader. It's like being a chef that doesn't like to eat or a musician doesn't like to listen to music. You're never gonna have an idea of what it's like. So go get yourself a guitar and a lollipop. Um, but we went back and forth. He actually changed his video because of me. He changed his video. He changed the title of the video, and then he reshot the video but put it in the same slot. So the new video, which I approve of, was how to start reading, ways of reading, of making reading part of your schedule. If you're not someone who likes to read, but you want to be a writer, here's ways that you can work on writing. Okay, I took down my comment because I'm like, okay, that's fine, but I guarantee you, I bullied him into. Well, I would say I'm doing good things because it's bad advice, and it's going to hurt people because it's advice that some people want to hear, and it was probably getting engagement because I've seen it. I've quit. I used to belong to all these Facebook book groups for writers, and they're all full of just idiots and dreamers, and they're like, oh my God, guys, I love writing, but I hate reading. Is there any hope for me? And then they're all like, yes, slay queen. No, there's no fucking hope, man. If you don't like writing, then you have to really think. If you don't like reading, you have to really, really wonder what it is that you really want. And like I said, I think there's this kind of romantic idea of what an author is. And so they like the idea of wearing the tweed jacket and the pipe and being pensive and people thinking they're smart because you write books. But if you're not reading, you don't know what a book looks like. You don't know what a book is like. You don't know what patience like. It's just if you're not a consumer of it, you're never gonna make it. It's just that simple. So we're gonna move on. So this guy, so this is gonna be fun. I don't know much about this guy. I did look up him. I looked him up on Amazon. He's got one book out, and it's co-written with someone else, and it's not doing very well. He puts out a lot of videos, and I think I've listened to one or two of them before, and they were good. So basically, I'm stepping lightly here because I'm not about tearing other people down. That's number one. So I did a lot of soul searching with this. Nor do I want to start fights with people. So this is in no way. So don't go over to this guy's channel and call him an idiot or anything like that. Because first of all, he's not. But this advice is bad, and by the way, I wrote a detailed comment on this video, which he has not replied to. The other guy did reply. Then when I replied to his reply, totally changed his video for the better. So maybe I helped him on his way. Maybe I can help this guy too. So the other thing is, this is the next level of YouTubing, right? Like, so I started going live, and then I got like StreamYard so I can bring other people on. And now I'm what's called E-fapping. And I was worried about using that term too, because this is the internet speak. It's fapping is a sexual term for satisfying. But E-fapping is a term, at least from a lot of the YouTubers I watch, in which you are making a video, watching someone else's video and commenting on it, and they call it E-fapping. I don't know. It's what the kids are saying. So we're going to E-fap this video together, and I'm going to stop it from time to time, and I'm going to comment on what he's saying. I'm going to start with this right here. Here's the title: Stop Writing Book Series. Okay. Well, see, that got my interest because I'm writing a series right now. And I'm like, well, why stop? Right? So that title did its job. It was provocative. I wanted to know more. Look at this guy. He's got a bunch of books behind him. I don't know if any of those books are his. I doubt it. I know he's got one book on Amazon. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have books somewhere else. So let's hear what he's got to say. Okay.
Writing a series of books is often a bad idea, especially for new authors, and I can prove it with math. This is Novel Marketing, the longest running book marketing podcast.
Okay, so I can prove it with math. So he has a premise. Now, I will say, I will give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt here. He says, let me replay that. He said,
writing a series of books is often a bad
idea. So he is giving himself a little bit of cover there by he's not saying it's bad, but he's going to tell you it's bad. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not bad. I have benefited greatly from writing a series, and it was my very first, starting with my first novel ever. And we'll get into that, but let's hear what he's got to say.
Bad idea, especially for new authors, and I can prove it with math.
Okay, and I can prove it with math. So that is an appeal to expertise, saying that because I'm using math in my argument is infallible. He seems pretty confident about the bullshit that he's about to continue on. So let's listen to some more bullshit here.
This is Novel Marketing, the longest running book marketing podcast in the world. And yes, there will be a bit of math in this episode, but please stick with me.
Okay.
For readers to buy book number 2 in a series, they have to first purchase, read, finish, and enjoy book number 1.
True. By the way, I'm going to stop it quite a bit because he can copyright strike me, I think, if I just run his video and just watch it. So because I'm stopping and commenting. So far, I mean, the thing, I'm not calling this a lie. And by the way, this guy's not stupid. He often has good advice. This is not good advice, okay? But I'm not saying this is a lie, but one of the best lies have truth built into them, so that that's what makes them believable. By the way, I'm waiting for FedEx, so if FedEx come, I'm gonna jump off real. I mean, I'll keep the live going, but I'm gonna step away from the camera. So yeah, that's true. In order for a series to have to work well with book one, they have to purchase it, read it, and finish it, enjoy it. That is true, and that's a challenge. Okay, so I mean, there's some truth in what he's saying.
If they don't do those 4 things, they won't be interested in book number 2.
True.
Now, depending on whose numbers you use, the average book sells between 100 and 250 copies in its lifetime. Now, that
I will tell you right now, I'm above average with all my books.
average is pulled down by a lot of books that sell basically no copies. So let's take an above average book number 1 that sells 1,000 copies.
Okay.
Now, let's generously assume that 80% of the readers who bought the book started reading it. That brings us down to 800 readers.
And that's generous, right? I have bought a bunch of books for $1 that are sitting in my queue that I have not read yet.
And before you judge, just ask yourself, how many books have you purchased that you haven't started yet? Some readers already own several lifetimes worth of future reading, and they're still buying books. We love those readers. They help keep the industry afloat, but they don't tend to finish the books they buy.
Cool.
Now, let's assume that of the 800 readers who started reading your book, 80% of them went on to finish your book. I know this is generous. Most books don't have an 80% completion rate, but remember, this is an example from an above average book. So 80% of 800 is 640. Now, let's assume that of the 640 people who finished the book, 80% of them enjoyed it enough to want to buy the sequel. That brings us down to 512 readers. The total addressable market for a sequel to a book that sold 1,000 copies is 512 readers. If you had their email addresses, you could sell 500 copies of your book with just a handful of emails. But once you sold 512 copies, sales will crater until you can get more readers to buy, read, finish, and enjoy that first book. Now, let's compare that total addressable market to the total addressable market for a standalone book. Let's say.
Okay, so the general premise here is that if you have a finite number of readers, that you're going to have diminishing returns. So if 1,000 people buy book one, and 800 of those people actually read it, 512 go on to buy book two, and then if you follow this logic, like no one's reading book 7. No one makes it that far because what he's building up is a mechanism of diminishing return. Here's the main problem with that. He's assuming a finite number. There are more than 1,000 readers out there. There is not a finite number of readers. There's an infinite number of readers, right? There are readers being born right now. Right now, there are people being born who, I'll tell you what, I just read a book, Mark Raskovich. It was written in 1974. He's dead, by the way. Mark Raskovich was a World War II vet. Great book, man. I loved it. I read it. I did a review on it. Unfortunately, he's not alive to see my review, but it didn't end there, right? It kept going. And let me, I won't play much more of this guy. He makes a good argument, but the argument is faulty. I'm going to show you what I wrote. Somebody liked it. It might have been him. Who knows? But this is my reply to this. And I watched the whole 22-minute video. And by the way, if you want to watch this video, I put the link to his video in my notes. You can go there. You can watch the whole video yourself. He does make some good points, but his overall premise is faulty and on bad logic. Also, while you're down there, or first of all, while you're clicking on things, please give me a like. Please subscribe. Join my email list. And what else do I want you to do? Oh yeah, we got pre-orders for the French Fiasco. So get the French Fiasco for 99 cents or whatever that is in your country. Usually with the promos, I can only do them in the US and UK, but that's a global price. So whatever 99 cents is in your country, if you're in France, if you're in Japan or Brazil, you're in Ireland, if you're in Zimbabwe, you can get the book for uh, uh, whatever 99 cents is, 89 pence in the UK. All right, so here's my rebuttal, and emphasis on the syllable but, because there's a big but here, man. I'm coming into this argument with a big but. I said, I may be one of the lucky ones, but I have consistent read through of my 5 soon to be 6 book series. It's my first 2. Oh, let me just tell you this, 'cause I'm gonna spare you watching the rest of this guy's video. Basically, his argument ends up with this: that you should not start with a series, that you should write a bunch of standalones. And he also goes to uh, he points out multiple famous writers who wrote series later on, but wrote some standalones first that nobody reads. And so he's like, yeah, these books are trash and no one likes them, or you have to be a really big fan to go back and read the early stuff. So once again, I think it's bullshit. Um, his ultimate advice is this: if you're a new author, don't write a series, write standalone books. After you've got a few under your belt and you feel like you know what you're doing, then start a series. Awful advice. Awful advice. Okay, so let's get back to my advice. So, all right. So your argument sounds logical on the surface, but it assumes a finite number of readers in a world of infinite readers with new ones born every day. You're not confined to 1,000 readers who will whittle down to nothing as your series continues. You can have new readers constantly coming into the funnel over the life of your first book. Bernard Cornwell, by the way, if you don't know who he is, he's a very famous writer in my genre. He's like the top of the fucking mountain. Everybody who's writing today in my genre wants to be Bernard Cornwell, who, by the way, is still alive and still putting out books. Bernard Cornwell's first book, Sharp's Rifle, still sells today. They've made a movie out of it with Sean freaking Bean, and streaming series out of 2 of his other series. Not bad for a rookie year. My first book was slow to get rolling, but as I published more people discovered it. My third book really took off and brought the first 2 with it. Now, I often have people buy the whole series when I do in-person events, and even on Amazon when I offer a 99-cent, 99 pence promo on one of the interior books. I agree that you need to have a banger to start your series. I was lucky in that. I also confess that although I am proud of my first book, my prose has improved with each one. I will also say that if you're not getting much movement on book 1 to book 2, you should probably ditch and move to a new series or a standalone. Anyway, I enjoyed your video. You're a smart guy with good advice, but I'm sorry, but I couldn't let this one fly. Thanks for the work you do. So I wanted to make sure that, I'm not being a jerk, because I can be. I can be just ask anybody who knows me personally. I can be a real fucking asshole if I want to be, and have been in the past. I I think ultimately we might be coming close to the same advice, but we're coming from 2 different angles. This guy is telling you, don't even try to write a series. Um, I'm saying try, and if it's not working after 2 or 3 books, then write another series. But I will also say that this guy here is offering generic advice. He's offering advice to everybody, whether you're military historical fiction, or your paranormal romance, or your cozy mystery, or your space marine sci-fi, or your horror, or your historical romance, or your contemporary military thriller, or you're writing nonfiction. Um, he's trying to he's trying to do broad appeal. The problem is that all those different genres work differently, right? Um, like for example, horror. Horror rarely ever is written in series. I think horror would be a horrible series because horror is about like discovering the monster and then killing it. And yeah, they do series on in films. I don't see that a whole lot in books. Usually in films, they're just recycling the same thing. It's Jason killing another batch of obnoxious teenagers. Um, Historical action adventure and military historical typically do go to or your urban fantasy. Lloyd says yes. Urban fantasy is a great one um, uh, for a series because you can explore. You can build a war. You can build a world and explore it. So I would not recommend if you're an urban fantasy writer or if you're a military historical writer like me, just trying to do one up, because if it is good, and I mean, and he this guy here does later on say, hey, if you write a standalone and it's successful, then maybe you can start writing sequels to it. But his advice is don't try it. Don't try it at all. His advice is to practice with um, standalones, and then once you have once you write a couple standalones that are crappy, try to write a series. Or if you have a standalone that works out really well, then try to expand upon it. What I'm saying is, um, go for it, man. If your genre, because I'll tell you this, first of all, a series, if if it works right, is a moneymaker because if you write one ups, people are constantly looking for something to read, like actual real readers, and that's the thing too, is as an author, that's like I said earlier, if you're not a reader and you want to be a writer, go get a fucking guitar and do that instead because you will never understand how to be successful. Readers like to read and they're looking for, and they love, at least in my genre, they love a series. They want a series that they can jump into and stick with for a while because they don't want to go looking for more books. They want to read. They don't want to shop, right? So that a lot of times when I'm selling in person, people typically buy either the whole series or they'll buy like the first three because my series is kind of weird because it's like a trilogy in the Civil War, then there's a prequel, and then there's Wars of German Unification afterwards. So not everything. I mean, it's a cohesive story, but as far as genre, there are people that are just interested in the Civil War, and hopefully some of them like my writing, and like the story enough. Like, wow, I need to keep reading this, and that has happened. Um, and it happens, like I said, it happens on Amazon too, where I'll have like one of the interior books for 99 cents, and people will say, "Well, screw it, this one's 99 cents, but there's 6 books here, so I'm just going to buy the whole thing." See those sales, and what's really weird is that when I run 99 cent on book one, well, I'll sell book one, but I don't get those immediate, after I sell a bunch of book ones because of a 99 cent promo, I will see those readers roll through the other books. So the other sales come a few weeks later. But if I do an interior book, like The Perils of Perryville or The Blood for Blood at Nashville, I will look at my sales when I'm running a promo on one of those and see that the whole series is selling, or at least the initial trilogy. So that is interesting. This is also something I need to work on because um, do I need to? And I've talked about this before, and I won't go too far on the offshoot, but do I need to reorganize? So I need to keep it like a trilogy, maybe make the prequel a prequel instead of book four, and then make the 2 books of German unification a separate but connected series. I don't know. And then I'm gonna do Black James. Black James is about a character that's introduced in the series, but it won't be a sequential book. So I don't know if Black James will be book 7 or if it will just be kind of like its own standalone. That could be a series starter if it takes off. We'll see. But I digress. Okay, enough of this guy. I wanted a lot of this was an experiment to see if I could do um, a E-fap a video, and I might do this again. I mean, I'm not going to constantly go after people who are giving bad advice, but I might if I see something I'm like, this is some bullshit, and I gotta let people know. Or maybe it just something else that piques my interest. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right. So the other things we're going to talk about. So the French Fiasco that's coming along well. I am. We're editing it. I broke it up into 7 chunks, and so I start with chunk 1, which is the opening material. Once I put it through all my paces and editing, and I'm kind of like the developmental editor on this. Then I send it to Laura. Laura prints it up and spends a week with it, taking a red pen to it. Laura's not I mean, she is creative. She says she isn't, but Laura's more of I'm more of a creative mind. She's more of an analytical mind. So she's really good. And she's got a great sense of grammar, better than me. So she's really good going there with a red pen. And not only that, but finding inconsistencies and hey, you call this person this over here, or you better do a document search on this word because you're spelling it different ways throughout the book. Things like that. She's great. Once she's done with her segment, I make all the corrections that she gives me, and then I send it to my mother. And my mother reads through it and finds any leftover mistakes. So all 7 parts, one of us is constantly working on one. So I use segments of parts because the first segment is opening material from like the title page to like the table of contents, the forward, and even chapter 1, and then segment 2 is part 1, and there's 5 parts. Then the segment 7 is closing material, which is the last chapter plus like the historical note, blah blah blah. So that's how we're doing it. So one of us is we're always cycling through, getting the book clean. So I do a segment, hand it to, and then move on to the next. Hand it off to Laura. Laura finishes it. By that time, I'm on to the 3rd segment, and I'm feeding her new segments as she finishes the see how I'm saying? So we're processing through it. Then I'll probably do one more last read through just to make sure that there isn't anything glaring that I see. And we're going to be publishing that April 16th, the day after tax day in the U.S. And my reasoning is I could have done it sooner, but I wanted to give myself plenty of time. I want to. I'm hoping that I have. Oh wow, yeah, I have followers on Amazon. I had up to 178 followers, and suddenly, out of nowhere, it dropped down to 137. So I lost like 50 followers. Now, I don't believe that's 50 people that stopped following me. I think that Amazon did some house cleaning and may have gotten rid of old accounts or false accounts or whatever. So that yeah, I mean, that hurt to lose 50 followers. I'm looking right now. Unfortunately, oh, they're back. Let me see if I can share this with you. Present arms. Okay, we're going to share screen. Maybe I can. Look at that. Yeah. This is weird. Okay. So let me just make sure. Am I sharing this? No. Nothing ever works. Oh, can't do it. Okay, I'm sorry. This is weird though. So on Amazon, you can follow authors. Unfortunately, authors have no control over that. Like we can't send you emails or whatever. So ultimately, that's why we have email lists. And by the way, please sign up for my email list. And I'm going to give you some free stuff a free novella and a free glossary. But more on that later. The other day, because I'm always checking to see if I have new followers on Amazon, I had gotten up to 178, and then the other day I looked and I had 137. I'm like, what the hell happened? So I assumed that that they were cleaning out old accounts that were dead, but now I'm back up to 178. So anyway, enough of that. What I'm really concerned about is that I want, they're supposed to send out an email for the pre-order, and they didn't do that for my last book. They did it before, but they're not doing it now. They do it for Lloyd. Lloyd's watching right now, and I've gotten emails saying Lloyd's got a new book or Lloyd's got a pre-order, and I always share it with Lloyd to let them know that they're doing it. They're not doing it for me. Now, I think the last one, because there was some German military iconography that may have made it look like the bad guys from World War II, and that might have, the algorithm may have said, well, we don't want to promote this, and so maybe they help out. So far they have not put out an email saying that the French fiasco is coming out in April. However, I got an email from someone else's pre-order, and the date was like 5 days away. So maybe Amazon will put it out like a few days before the launch. We'll see. It would be nice to get that out to those 178 followers. But instead, I have my own email list. I only have like 77 followers on my email list, but we're working, we're building on that. So that's happening. The second weekend in March. Let me just check my calendar. And it's going to be a challenge because if you can tell, I'm having trouble talking. I have cancer. I have tongue cancer. I'm getting treatment. I'm going to live, but the treatment is making, is very destructive. So I'm reeling from not just the cancer, but the treatment itself. So, all right. So not this weekend or the next weekend, but the following weekend, I will be in South Haven at the I think it's the Landers Convention Center, and there's the Mid South Civil War show and military Mid South Civil War military history show. These guys always comp me a table because I play the fiddle and I add to the ambience. So I don't knock you if you do this, but I never pay for tables. And I get people like, hey, we're having this author thing, and tables are $80. I'm like, hey, good luck with that, but no, thank you. And my reasoning is, at this point, I'm not really focusing on direct sales. I do direct sales, but that's not the focus of my business. The focus of my business is sell worldwide on Amazon. I want to sell in the UK, which UK is probably my second biggest country after the United States. And sometimes I sell more. Some months I make more money in the UK than I make in the US, quite often. Ultimately, I make more money in the US, but there are several months where the UK is short. Like if I make 60% of my income in the US, I might make like 35% in the UK, and then like I've sold some books in the Netherlands this month. So what I'm saying is, it's not that I'm against direct sales. It's just that as a single person, I can't do the kind of volume that I need to do, but I can do that through Amazon. So I'd rather sell hundreds and thousands of books through Amazon than dozens myself a single day. And that's usually what happens. However, I never turn down an opportunity. So if someone says, hey, Cody, we would like to have you, we have a thing going. We want to give you a table. We would love to have you come out and bring your fiddle and sell your books. Sure. And I'll do that at a loss. I mean, when I go to the Landers Center, I gotta pay for a hotel. Now I'm gonna pay for it through points, but I'm using my points, I gotta pay for a hotel. It's a 4-hour drive there and 4 hours back, so it's a few tanks of gas. and food. Fortunately, I can't eat anymore, so I won't have to worry about paying for food. Um, and then in this, effort and time, and I'm going to be very sick when I go. 2 weeks, I will tell you right now, and we're going to get into this some more, but it's the cancer and the treatment's taking its toll, and I'm getting to the point where I can't eat. I can barely talk. I'm losing weight. I don't know if you can tell. I'm really happy about the weight loss, but there's gonna be a point where we don't want to lose anymore. I'm down to I was about 237 this summer, before this really started taking effect. I was overweight for sure. I'm 215 now, so I've lost about 22 pounds, which is great. If I could stay right where I am, I'll probably lose some more weight because I cannot eat. And we're going to get into that. By the time I go to South Haven, I'm going to be a fucking human wreck. Now, my mom was going to come down. My mom's like 80 years old, but she's very young at heart. She was going to drive down and and drive with me and work the show, and she's wonderful. My mother has worked in advertising all her life. My mother is a people person. Everybody loves her. She has done a million conventions. She knows how to work a booth better than anybody in the world. But my mother has been having medical trouble. We don't know what it was. She had some kind of like her blood pressure shot up. It wasn't a stroke. It was close to one though, where she had to go to the emergency room and she blacked out. So I don't know if my mom is going to be able to come down and help me, or she should. But no matter what, even if I have to drag myself off the grave, I'm going. So we'll see. But so anyway, if you're near Memphis, because it's South Haven is basically a suburb of Memphis, but it's in Mississippi, just about 20-minute drive from downtown Memphis. And it's a nice South Haven. Memphis can be kind of Detroity. I like it because it reminds me of home. I feel very comfortable there. But um, you know, South Haven is not like Memphis. It's very clean and safe, and the Landers Convention Center is very professional, very nice uh, uh, venue, and the event itself is wonderful. Uh, it's they have speakers. I was a speaker. Was it last year? Was I a speaker? Yeah, they have speakers every year. I spoke there once. They have live entertainment. I typically play at my booth, but when I'm not playing, there's a string band that goes up and plays up on the stage, and it's always fun. And yeah, I'll be there. So come check me out. What else is new with me with the writing career? That's basically it. Um, I am now you're going to be going through a series of promos. So right now, Rampage on the River is 99 cents in the US. It's going to be 99 pence in the UK next week. Then we're going to do 2 weeks of Mesh My Love, a week in the US at 99 cents, a week in the UK for 99 pence. And then Blood for Blood. And then at that point, it'll be the very first time ever we're going to run um, the last book, The Prussian Prince, has been $4.99. I finally dropped it. Once we started the pre-order for the new book, The French Fiasco, I dropped the Prussian Prince to $3.99. And then once you drop the price, you have to wait 30 days before you can run a 99-cent promo. So I have identified a preview of the French Fiasco. So we're going to run a preview of we're going to put a preview of the French Fiasco in the Prussian Prince, and then run a 99 cent and then a 99 pence promo in the US and UK. And I'm gonna spend a bunch of money on Facebook ads and Amazon. And hopefully that will bring in enough people into the tunnel and get enough. I'm going to spend probably at a loss, but I'm going to spend a lot of money getting some hype up. So when the launch happens, hopefully we'll have a bunch of pre-orders, and we'll have a bunch of people who are reading through the series who are now excited about getting the French Fiasco. So that's where we are. Then right after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to consolidate all the glossaries of all my books, and then I'm going to publish the Anglian glossary, and that is going to be the ebook is going to be free on Amazon. I'm going to send a free version to everybody on my email list, and that is going to be a test because basically what I'm going to do is write a reader magazine after that. I'm going to write a novella that's going to be free and exclusive to my list. And so you're on my list if you want to get that. It's going to be a prequel to the to Rampage on the River. It's going to be about Chester E. Newman. If you have read the series, you'll know who that is. And it'll have to do with the Underground Railroad, runaway slaves, slave catchers. A lot of people don't know this, but Detroit was one of the destinations of the Underground Railroad. Basically, the other side of the Detroit River is Canada. So a lot of enslaved people ran to Detroit and crossed the river to freedom because Canada at the time was part of Britain, and Britain had outlawed slavery in 1832, I believe. There's a great movie about that called Amazing Grace, I think it is. The song Amazing Grace, a lot of people don't realize this. The song Amazing Grace, a lot of people think it's about finding God, and I guess it can be. But the true meaning of it was the guy who wrote it was an abolitionist. He was a British abolitionist fighting in Parliament to end slavery in the UK and in all her colonies. And he wrote that song. And that song was like a kind of a propaganda song to push their anti-slavery legislation to Parliament. There's a great movie about it. I highly recommend it. And the guy who is in it, you'll recognize him. He plays Horatio Hornblower in that series of movies. I think is it the Patrick O'Brien or the C.S. Forrester novels? They did a series of movies based off of those, and he plays the lead character. He also plays Dr. Reed Richards in like one of the earlier iterations of the Fantastic Four movie. So anyway, I recommend that highly. So I'm doing the glossary as a test to see about the delivery system for my email list, and then I'm gonna write the novella. And then once the novella is done, I'm writing my first pirate and nautical adventure, Black James. It's going to be epic. It's going to be generational, and I'm looking forward to that. And then we'll get back to Carl. And then who knows? By the way, I'm not dying. So if I were dying, the French Fiasco would be a perfect last book. I heard an author once say, if you knew you were dying, is the book you're writing now what you would want to be your last book? And I would say, yeah. I would say the French Fiasco would be a perfect last book for me. But it's not going to be. All right, let's talk about my cancer. So I have tongue cancer. I got it from the HPV, human papilloma virus. Probably a virus that I picked up as a young man. And I no longer carry the virus or can spread the virus to anybody. But throat and tongue cancer is usually a result of the virus later on in life, and that's what's happening to me. It's in the left base of my tongue. It's very aggressive, but it's not spreading in my body, thank goodness. It's pushing the boundaries in my tongue. That's why it's difficult for me to speak because my tongue is swelling up. But not only that, but I've been going through chemo and radiation. And the radiation every single day, Monday through Friday, I go into they lock my head in a mold made for my face and my shoulders. So I'm locked in position. They put me in a tube, and they burn the tumor with the radiation. And because of that, my mouth is full of ulcers. I can't see them. And you probably can't see me either. I can't open my mouth bigger than that either. I'm losing my ability to swallow and to speak. those will come back. I'm going through swallow therapy, but one of the biggest things is I'm getting a feeding tube, and I was horrified by that when I first heard it. But I'll tell you, last night Laura made a quiche, and we thought maybe that would be something I could eat because it'd be soft. It was absolute fucking agony. It was agony. I was like in tears trying to choke it down. I'm at the point now where I can't eat. Um, I can take in liquids. I'm eating Ensure. They have a special one that you can order through Amazon. It's 500 calories, so I'm going to be getting some of that. But even taking in liquids, I aspirate, which means it's hard for me to direct the liquids into the right pipe. And they're worried that I'm going to get it into my lungs, which I do get food and liquid in my lungs, and that I will develop pneumonia and then die from the pneumonia. So my doctor said, your eating passages are highly compromised, and it's better that we get you started now on a feeding tube before it becomes like an emergency. Because if we wait till it's an emergency, we're going to have to put you in the hospital and you have to spend a week to 10 days in the hospital. So I'm going to get a feeding tube. It's going to go right directly into my stomach. And then I'll be giving myself both water and food through like a syringe. So I fill up full of the goo or liquid, and then you just put it into the tube, and it goes right into your stomach. I didn't want to do that, but at this point, you know what's really weird is I'm hungry. I'm hungry, but I can't taste anything. I can smell food, and it smells good, and I'm hungry, but I can't taste it, and it's painful to eat. So I'm ready. I'm ready for the feeding tube. Come what may, let's do it. I had my consultation on Tuesday, and I'm just waiting for them to book a date. So that's basically it. I want to bring everybody down. Otherwise, I'm in good spirits. I'm strong. The rest of my body is fine. In fact, like I said, I'm losing weight, looking pretty good. I'm looking forward to this summer, and where I have a full recovery, and I'll be able to eat. Last night I had a whiskey. I had Buffalo Trace, which is my favorite, like just off the shelf kind of whiskey, and I could barely taste it, and I couldn't finish it. So I was like, okay, no more drinking my good whiskey. I don't want to waste it. But I'm looking forward to smoking. I mean, my favorite. I love all food, but my absolute favorite is smoked ribs. And very few people can do it as well as I can. You can't get it. You have to get it from a place that specializes in it. You're not going to get it from Chili's or Bennigan's. They usually boil the ribs and then throw it on the grill, and they're awful. No real, ribs that have been slow smoked for 12 hours, fall off the bone, or near fall off the bone, basically. But yeah, smoked ribs with tangy barbecue sauce and a glass of um, uh, Buffalo Trace on the rocks, and some sweet potatoes. I take sweet potatoes. I got this recipe where it's butter, bourbon, and garlic and brown sugar, you chop them up and then you roast them. Oh my god, it's fucking great. By that time, it's so rich that I just do white rice. So the white rice will just kind of soak up the grease and the sauce. So better white rice. Um, my slow smoked ribs and um, the bourbon and brown sugar sweet potatoes. Oh, maybe some coleslaw. I love creamy coleslaw. Love it. Ever since childhood, it's one of my favorite. Have that too. Some hot pickles, man. Laura has some beer. Laura, by the way, her rap name is Too Full. Because Laura, all the time, like I'll make a great meal, and Laura will go, "Oh, I'm too full," and I'm like, yo, too full. And she always thinks that's funny. So Too Full and I will be having some ribs this and you know what, Lloyd, we're gonna have you and Mindy over too. I mean it. And I have another friend that reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, man, I need to have you guys over sometime too. Um, that's what my dad did. That's the adulting. I'm too broke to go to fancy restaurants, but man, I can cook a meal. So sorry. All right, I'm hitting my limit. Love you guys. I will say that is it weird that I'm doing these as I'm falling apart? I kind of like to document it by trying to do a live stream once a week, and I promise you that the the content is the writing stuff, but I don't want it to be the Kodak's Cancer Show, but I wanted to share the journey as well. I have let it be known on Facebook now, and people have been very sweet. But this is the place where I'm talking about the most. So anyway, I love you guys. Lloyd, get writing. All right. And by the way, I always finish up with this. Man, the best thing you can do if there are writers in your life or a writer that you love, and even if it's a Stephen King, not only buy their books and read them, but write a review, or at least go on to Amazon and Goodreads and give them 5 stars, and then tell people why you love the book. It doesn't have to be as extensive as mine. I'm a writer, of course, so I'm gonna write long reviews. But hey, you can write, loved it, couldn't put it down, one of his best, done. Do that for the writers that you love, and they will. I guarantee you, they will appreciate it. All right, love you guys, and we'll talk next week. Next week, I'm probably gonna do reading Ben Kane's Napoleon Spy. There's about a British guy who is part of Napoleon's disastrous invasion of Russia. I'm about 75% done with it, so that's probably what we'll do next week. We'll do a review of that book. All right. Talk to you soon. Don't worry about me.